There's been a lot of talk about Biden's age recently. Democrats, the media, some Republicans are saying Biden isn't up for the job because he's too old. Well, we kind of agree, but that's not the real issue. We don't believe Biden's lost it. We don't think Biden ever had it. Joe's age has been used as an excuse for his real problem. He's dumb. We don't like saying that about the president, but it has to be said. He's never been a smart person. Joe Biden has no business doing anything, so he spent his whole career hiding in government. There's an old saying, those who can do, those who can't teach, and those who can't teach run for office. Joe's lack of intelligence came to light in the 1980s when he first ran for president. He was busted completely plagiarizing a speech by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock. Joe figured the UK was far enough away that nobody would really notice.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family, in 1,000 generations, to be able to get the university?
They didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
And after Biden got caught, he told voters to get over it. It's no big deal.
Quite frankly, I think you'll all be the judge and the people be the judge. I think there's much ado about nothing. The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous.
Turns out Americans don't like liars and phonies, and Biden was forced to drop out of the race weeks later. Back then, the media kind of did their job, even when it came to Democrats. I know, it's surprising. And they started digging and uncovered Biden was a serial plagiarizer. They found that earlier in the year, Joe was ripping off the Kennedys.
It cannot measure the health of our children, the quality of our education, the joy of their play.
The gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play.
Our generation of Americans will pay any price, bear any burden, accept any challenge, and meet any hardship.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship.
It goes even deeper than that. Joe plagiarized his way through law school. As a student at Syracuse, Biden copied 5 entire pages for a paper. Think about that. How stupid do you have to be to do that in law school? Not 5th grade, law school. Biden was very defensive about his academic credentials back then.
I have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
None of that was true, and the media caught him.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole...
Joe was never a good student. He had to repeat the 3rd grade and got mostly C's and D's in his first 3 semesters of college. Biden's always been insecure about his brain. It's his big secret. Anybody who questions him on it needs to be ready for a fight. He still, to this day, gets defensive about it.
I want to check my shape on. Let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test.
Let's take an IQ test. Have you ever heard a president challenge a voter to an IQ test? Most politicians are able to display their intelligence through speech and policy. not Joe. He's had an unremarkable career in public service. He voted against the Gulf War, but for the Iraq War. Voted for a border fence, but then changed his mind as now he's for open borders. He led the war on drugs, but his son's a crack addict. He was against the bin Laden raid. And then he left billions in equipment for the Taliban. He spent trillions on COVID freebies and then was like, oh, why is there inflation? He wants the U.S. economy to run on solar panels and windmills. Biden's not a leader. He's just been pulled around by the different factions inside the Democratic Party his entire career. He doesn't have any real thoughts of his own. That's why he's been flip-flopping and plagiarizing for decades. Think about it. How dumb is the guy who thinks Hunter Biden is the smartest man in America?
He's a grown man. He is the smartest man I know. I mean, in terms of pure intellectual capacity.
The Biden family doesn't have a lot of brain power. Hunter and Jimmy the Chin only make a living because there's a Biden in Washington. They wouldn't get a dime from foreign countries if they didn't abuse their last name. But they're obsessed with people thinking they're smart. Nobody wants people to think he's smart more than Joe. He must love when people blame his gaffes on his age.
Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah.
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. All men and women created by you know the thing. Donald Trump.
Love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it?
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
His mom lived in Long Island for 10 years or so. God rest her soul. And although your mom's still alive. Is your dad, Pat?
The truth is, it has very little to do with age. We know plenty of people in their 70s and 80s who are as sharp as ever. Biden's always been a dud. In 2008, he asked his old pal Chuck Graham to stand up, forgetting Chuck was in a wheelchair.
Chuck Graham, state senator's here. Chuck, stand up. Chuck, let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal.
You're probably thinking to yourself, how did this guy ever make it to the White House? Well, after his second failed presidential run, Obama plucked him up and picked him as Veep. We're not sure why. Maybe he just needed a seasoned stooge to throw under the bus anytime something went wrong. After working with Joe for 8 years, Barack was horrified to hear Biden was running for president. Quote, "Don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up," he told people behind the scenes. But after a year of COVID and riots and media cover-ups, Joe was swept into the Oval Office and hasn't stopped things up since. It's time we stop treating Biden like a doddering grandpa and start treating him for what he is, a low IQ politician who got lucky and wound up in the White House. Charlie Hurd is an opinion editor at the Washington Times and a Fox News contributor. I mean, Charlie, come on. I mean, that's the truth, right? He's just not a smart guy. Why are we beating around the bush?
No, you got that exactly right. Every bit of that, and that montage is just, it's, you know, the trip down memory lane is one thing, but then when you get to the parts where you start to see the actual damage that he's doing, it's a lot less funny. But no, you're exactly right. The problem with this guy is he's a follower. He's not a leader. He's always been a follower. And to answer your question, the reason that Barack Obama picked him to be vice president is because he was a white-haired old coot from Washington who'd been around here forever. He was harmless. Nobody took him seriously. They knew that he said things that weren't true. They didn't care. Perfect person to put in the White House, especially for a guy like Barack Obama, who viewed himself very much as sort of revolutionary, and he was a very different candidate, to be sure. And he used Biden as this person to sort of balance out the newness of Barack Obama. And of course, as you point out, he never dreamed that Joe Biden would ever, and in fact, made sure that when President Obama left office, he made sure that Biden wasn't running for the nomination after him. Never dreamed that he would get into the White House.
Do you think the media knows how dumb Joe Biden is?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember covering Congress for years and covering the Senate Judiciary Committee, of which he was the chairman. And the great thing about Joe Biden was you could get him to say anything. Going back to the point, he's like Mikey. He'll do anything. He'll eat anything. He'll do anything. And you could get him to say anything. So if you're a reporter and you've got to get your story together and you need somebody to say something, you find Joe Biden in the hallway and you can just sort of set him up. He would literally say anything, and then you'd have your story done. And it wouldn't matter if it was true or not, or it hurt him or helped him or whatever. And of course, people would read it the next day in the paper. Nobody took him seriously anyway. So it was no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the dumbest president we've ever had, I've ever seen. He has no new ideas. He's got no instincts. He can't make a decision. And we're stuck for another 2.5 years.
He hides behind the ridiculous gaffes and things like that. But you're exactly right. Behind it is a very dangerous, not smart person.
Right. All right. Charlie Hurt, thanks for coming on Primetime.
Great to see you.